Hi, my name is Gina Allen, and I'm going to be doing a summary on Chapter 4 of Learning from the Stranger, Christian Faith and Cultural Diversity by David I. Smith. The chapter is called On Loving Foreigners. He talks about the parable of the Good Samaritan in Luke 10:25 through 37. He talks about the law, the scribe who was the expert in the law. And the scribe asks Jesus, "Who is my neighbor?" And Jesus tells the story about a man, we don't know his ethnicity. He was beaten and robbed on his journey from Jerusalem to Jericho, which was known as a dangerous spot. The priest saw him, cross to the other side. A Levite saw him, cross to the other side. But a Samaritan came to him, bandaged his wounds, put him on his donkey, and took him to an inn. The next day he paid the innkeeper 2 silver coins and told him when he came back he would pay any extra expense. Jesus cleverly asks, who was the neighbor? The scribe, the expert, he had to answer in a way not to humiliate himself. The one who had mercy on him. Verse 37. Jesus continues on and tells this expert to go and do likewise. Jesus implied that this teacher of the law was supposed to think of himself as on the outside seeking admittance into God's kingdom. The 2 religious people Jesus talked about were a priest and a Levite. Both were acquainted with the Torah and God-fearing, even maybe church-going, Bible-believing people. The Samaritan in the story was despised by Jews. The Samaritan does not stop to check out the ethnicity of the man on the side of the road. Jesus talks about loving your neighbor as yourself, Matthew 22:39. Smith defines love as considerate responsiveness, a set of attitudes and actions that intentionally places the other's well-being at the heart of my concerns and responds accordingly. He also talked about the golden rule, Matthew 7:12. Not self-centeredness, but joyful well-being for others that expresses the kingdom of God. Not waiting for others to do good to me first and then respond in kind. The 4 characters in the story were the priest, the Levite, the Samaritan, and the robbery victim. There was an invitation to humble himself and enter the upside-down world of compassion given and received in recognition of mutual vulnerability. Humble ourselves when we think of ourselves as the center and foreigners as oddities. Jesus calls us to go and do likewise. I agreed with the author. The robbery victim is really the central character in the story. He appears throughout the story. The scribe must identify himself with the robbery victim. He would not identify with the 2 religious people, the priest or the Levite, and he certainly would not identify himself with the Samaritan. So it must be the robbery victim. He must admit to needing help by others. Foreigners are no longer objects of my charity, but neighbors that I need. I also agree with the author in the upside-down logic of Jesus. He talks about fairness. Matthew 20:1 through 16 talks about the parable of the landowner, how he paid various laborers. The last shall be first, and the first shall be last. Another upside-down logic of Jesus is victory. Matthew 16:21 and Matthew 17:20 through 23, he explained all that was going to happen to him. So what looked like defeat actually turned into victory. And authority. Matthew 20:1 through 28, when the mother comes and asks about her sons. And Jesus says, whoever wants to be great must be a servant. I did not find anything that I disagreed with this author in this chapter. Christine Pohl devotes a whole section on hospitality. She said that Jesus is often portrayed in the Gospels as a stranger who is sometimes welcomed but more often rejected. Special attention should be given to people who do not appear to have the ability to repay kindness. She says strangers are people without a place, disconnected from life-giving relationships and networks. She says opportunities for hospitality often appears in the form of interruptions. It's definitely not convenient. And hospitality is an invitation from God to grow deeper in love with Him. Thank you.